Welcome to Come and See, your podcast for finding truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. With host and founder Richard Case and co-host and retreat leader Kathy Ricconi. Join us every weekday at this time to discuss news, spend time in the Word, and receive answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. And now your host, Richard Case.
Well, good morning, Kathy.
Good morning.
We are in the middle of our series, Overcoming Worry, Fear, and Anxiety, and in the middle of the week after Christmas. So this is airing after that. And of course, you had an experience over the last couple days that could demonstrate a little bit about what fear and worry and anxiety turns out. So, because you had a trip to see, I think we talked about this before, that you went to see your mother, and rejoice with her for Thanksgiving. So I think it's Nashville, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Down in Nashville.
You have to tell a little bit about how great a time you had, and then you had a little issue on the return.
We did. We had such a sweet time. So went down, and God had directed us actually a few months ago to plan a trip down between Thanksgiving and Christmas, really just to go spoil my mom and to just make her feel loved and to bring joy, because she would be alone with her living situation as it is. She would be alone for Thanksgiving and for Christmas. And so we decided, we're going to bring Christmas to her. Mm-hmm. And so we went down this past weekend to enjoy that with her. And it was so fun, truly, to watch the entire weekend, how God just went before every little detail of it. And even from, we taped this early, as everyone knows. So just to give them time context here, even from the morning that we were due to fly out, we had toyed with taking a Friday night flight. Instead, we really felt like God said, no, take Saturday morning. If we had taken the Friday night flight, that was when the huge tornado rolled through that whole area.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And, and when drove into the airport and there's trees down and whatnot. And the morning, if we had taken a flight even a couple of hours later, there would have been ice delaying us on this end. So it was just really fun to see how God even navigated the perfect flight. And honestly, we're rolling along the whole weekend. And at every turn, we just saw God show up and do these beautiful things that only God could do. We took her to this, one of her favorite Oak Ridge Boys, to an Oak Ridge Boys Christmas extravaganza, the Gaylord Opryland, which she just, it couldn't have been more perfect for her, just bringing joy to the holidays.
The Oak Ridge Boys they have this guy that sings bass.
Yes, he was there.
Did he sing the bass?
He did. They're amazing. Even at their age, they were so much fun to listen to. Yeah. And honestly, they even present a gospel message in the middle of it. Yeah, it's just, it's a beautiful thing. Yeah. So we had just a great time at every turn. And we're just, every moment, just look at what God has done, and pointing out to my mom, look how he just has gone before every bit of this, and he's just loving you so much. And then we turn around and we head for our trip home. And honestly, I'm like, what, did you just forget us, God? the travel day home could not have been more opposite than the whole rest of the trip, truly. I won't go into all the details, but from stupidity on our own part, a little bit, and some missteps by the airline when we should have gotten home, at 2:00 in the afternoon. We ended up at home in bed about 3:00 in the morning, our time, so that it was just a really, really long travel day. Tickets completely lost, were bumped out of the computer system somehow, and you not showing up.
You, with your delay, you had gone and just had a bite and get back on plenty of time to get back on the flight, and they prematurely closed the door, and they wouldn't even open the door to let you in, right?
No, exactly. Yeah, we had we were sitting at the gate and we're ready to go, but they were showing a delay. And so we look and we're like, we got half an hour till they're boarding. And the breakfast we had was so yucky that we're like, Chick-fil-A is 5 gates up. Let's just go get Chick-fil-A. You got to love Chick-fil-A. So there we go, thinking we have plenty of time. We come back when it's time, actually a few minutes before it was supposed to start boarding, according to the thing. And lo and behold, the doors are closed. The airplane is still sitting there, but they cannot let us on it. Right. And thus starts the day of delays.
Yes. So you had a lot of anxiety potential during that whole time. How did you and Dan handle it?
Well, you know what? Good and not good, to be honest with you. So the anxiety we didn't really go into a lot of anxiety. We stayed very calm, and actually, that's the Southerner in me too. But honestly, God just giving us peace. I will work this out. But so we stayed very calm, very kind in the whole thing, and we're able to treat people very well through the midst of it. Kind of felt like, okay, God said, you've got this extra time in the afternoon, because they could not put us on another flight then for like 8 hours. And so I had this extra time. We're like, okay, we've already turned in the rental car, but we can Uber back and surprise my mom and do lunch with her and hang out for a few more hours, and then, Uber back to the airport and try round 2. And so that's what we did. Had cool. A great time. Yeah, that was actually really nice. But the part where I'm saying we didn't navigate this well is what I found when we got back to the airport. I went from, we got this extra fun little bonus time with mom, to woe is me. And I allowed, and God showed me this even in my just in my time with him this morning. He's like, I allowed discouragement to steal my joy.
Yes.
And so it wasn't even so much, there were moments, especially when we got to board the flight wheel. We got on and we went to JFK. We had a connecting flight now. It got to JFK, it's midnight, and we're supposed to connect to this flight to Boston. And we go and we scan our boarding pass, and a big red light beeps, and they pull us to the side and say, oh, you're not in the system. And we're like, we have a boarding pass. Yeah, but you don't have a ticket. How in the world this even happened? We have no idea. But so there was a little bit of angst of, are we actually getting home, or are we spending the night in this airport at this point?
Yes.
But there was a little bit of anxiety in that, but God did give us peace in that, to simply, it's like, just be kind and let these guys do their job, and they will get you on the plane. And they held the plane for an extra half hour fixing our thing just for the two of us. So yes. I greatly appreciated their work. I appreciated God giving us peace in the midst of it. And then this morning, I appreciated the reminder from him that I let the discouragement steal my joy.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring that up even is that in that reminder, he showed me that's a place that you allow the enemy to traffic. And so be careful of that.
Yeah.
That when there is discouragement, I'm not an off the rails person. I'm just not, that's not who I am. I'm not an angry person. I'm typically very calming in whatever situation. But I wasn't, when you talk about you could see Linda wasn't joyful. I wasn't joyful for those hours that I was just sitting right. in the airport. And I think had I been, there could have been ministry opportunities even.
Yeah.
And simply Dan and I could have had a little more fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's, it's just, that's the way God says is, let me show you, teach you, and let's go forward. And, this is way back, and this is the difference between now and then. I was working for a Fortune 500 company in the 70s, and you didn't have any security. You just walk to the flight and get on.
That must be nice.
Yeah. So I'm in Los Angeles, flying back home, and I'm late because I have a meeting that goes long, and I'm late. So I rush to the gate, and they've already closed the door. And the plane, they said the plane's it's already closed their door.
Right.
And they're ready to go. And I said, I don't care. I'm getting on that plane. So I go past those guys, open the door, because it's not locked.
Oh my goodness.
I open the door and I run out. And this is Ontario, so there's no, what they call those tunnels that go to the train.
Right, the jetway.
The jetway. It's not no jetways. Yeah. They have to board by stairs. So I run out onto the tarmac, and the pilot is backing up.
Oh my goodness.
And I get on the tarmac and I go like this, please let me on the plane. and I put my hands together like I'm praying, please let me on the plane. He stops the plane, pulls it back, opens the door, and they put the stairs, and I get on the plane.
Oh my goodness! That would not happen nowadays.
No, it was, and it was that was a miracle all by itself. But today, obviously, I would have been out of luck. Just too bad.
Right.
And they don't alter any rules anymore. Literally, even when it didn't. Like for you, it's like, well, wait a minute, we're here.
Right.
And you said, and how come? Right. And they said, yeah, we know, but tough.
Right. And you could tell the lady felt so bad. Like, I think she does know they didn't change the board or something, something went awry there on their end, because she was bending over backwards to try to fix it for us, but not let us on the plane.
Yeah. And the world is, it really isn't, and this is why we have worry, fear, and anxiety. It's not really working well. Just all these things are not working. I ordered monitors, large computer monitors for our company because we're setting up an office, and so they came. Interesting enough, God said to me, try it out first.
Oh, interesting.
So I didn't open up all of them, I just opened up one. And I set it up, and it didn't work in terms of the clarity. To be able to see it from the the computer monitor to a larger monitor, it was super fuzzy. And then I said, this isn't going to work. So I called the company, and they said, yeah, this is a special monitor that is more for video. We said it's all this, but it really isn't. So go ahead and bring it back. Okay, so pack it up. The one that I opened, I packed that up. And I take them all back, and they accept them, barcode them, and supposedly, and I haven't checked this yet, but they're refunding the money for it, and I'm going to order it a different way. Okay, so that's all. And it took a lot of hassle to set it up, take it down, repack it, drive it over, but we did it.
Right.
So yesterday, Linda says, hey, Rich, there's some pretty big boxes here at your house, and she said, well, what did you order? I said, I didn't order anything, so it'll be interesting to see what this is. So I go home, they resent them back to me.
Oh, you're kidding.
They resent them back to me. And what
the very same ones.
The very same ones.
Yeah.
So what I think happened is, they received them and returned them, but their people saw the label on it still. Oh, we're supposed to ship it, and they shipped it instead of putting it back and stuff. Now I got them again, and I got to take them back. I got to take them back again. So it's indicative of just things aren't working great.
Right.
And what does it do? Well, it causes us stress.
Right.
Because now I got to deal with it, and I got to take the time, and I can imagine they're going to go back and say, well, we don't have a record of this, so we can't. I mean, I can imagine them saying it's going to be difficult to take back, and I'm saying,
right.
Yeah, but this is yours.
Yes.
Don't you want it back?
So you can already see some difficulties.
I can see the issue coming. Just like you experienced, is really it shouldn't have happened.
Right.
What happened to you? That door being closed, or even they're sitting there saying, well, why couldn't somebody say, wait a second, hey, we got a couple here that was on that flight.
Right.
So let them back on. And okay, all they got to do is open the door and let you on.
Right.
And the fact that no, we can't do that, it's crazy. So as we're...
I tell you what.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, in the midst of that, one of the things that I did find, I shared that God was revealing to me, I was letting the situation steal my joy. It didn't steal my kindness. It honestly didn't steal my peace, but it was stealing my joy.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we did do that God brought to mind was, I need you to recall how I have been with you in the midst of this whole thing.
Yeah.
because in that recollection, you will be reminded of the joy of being with me and walking with me. And so quit looking at your situation, your circumstance, and look at me.
Yes.
And the joy can return, even in the midst of the ugly afternoon and and being at the airport for a long time.
And
so
that's
he
always
had to do some correction, but that was a good exercise.
That's always what he's asking us as we process this is, okay, here we are. Mm-hmm. And again, see and this is what we're trying to say as we help people process this, is the answer is always now forward. Mm-hmm. Is that, okay, here we are, even if in a sense you might have contributed to the problem because you might have had
I needed my Chick-fil-A.
You need, hey, I really want this. How this would be fine, right? And even a thought of, and you said it, is I've kind of known really not to do that because things do change. So maybe you got that prompting from the Spirit, which, by the way, tends to be, in my experience, maybe with you too, it tends to be kind of soft. It's not a hard absolutely don't do it. It's It's pay attention. Mm-hmm. And we're really not. Yeah, but I would like to get it. I'm sure it'll be fine, so to speak. Okay, but at that point, the door's closed, and you can't get on. Mm-hmm. And see, God says, okay, here we are.
Yep.
Doesn't matter that they did it, that you did it, that you didn't. It doesn't matter. How about if I just resolve it now, going forward, and then I'm going to guide you through it to a resolution that actually will be okay, including, hey, you got a privilege of surprising your mom.
Which she was thrilled for the extra hours.
Yeah, and so he said, I'm going to make that, and don't let it steal your joy. I will resolve it, which he did. And then even I know you got favor when you had that problem with the ticket isn't there, literally not in the system.
Right.
They easily could have said, sorry, we can't let you on, because they're
and not held the flight to try to figure it out.
That's right. But you had an agent there mm-hmm. that actually shouldn't have been there.
Right. And in fact, the agent even said that. He said, and he didn't say God, but as soon as he said it, I'm like, I know exactly where this came from. But he looked, he's like, I knew I shouldn't leave this gate. I don't normally stay here, but I felt like I was supposed to stay.
Yeah.
And he was the one who was in charge, who could actually get it done.
Yeah.
But he would not normally have been there.
So you got home. Otherwise, I'd be doing this alone today. So.
Mm-hmm. I do have my caffeine this morning.
That's it. Hey, show them the new mug we got.
Yes, aren't these fun?
Yeah, all for Jesus mug. So it's exciting.
Love it.
They're beautiful, big, by the way, big. So Kathy needs a lot of caffeine.
I need a lot of caffeine today.
Well, as we've talked about this, we process through that you believe that God will resolve it. He says, I'm going to deliver you the covenant. I am going to bless you. Start there. Seek me, stay with me, hold on to me, walk with me, let me deliver it to you as I give you. And he wants to, as Kathy described, he wants, first of all, to give you, kind of a sense of rest that, yes, it is going to be resolved. And don't let, and that's kind of an interesting instruction that he says to us is,
right.
Yeah, I know you got difficulty. Yeah, you got a problem here. Yeah, it's unpleasant. You're gonna get home late, and you'll lose some sleep here. I mean, so you can look at all the consequences of it, but he says, don't let that steal your joy. Come back to me, and stay with me, and I will resolve it so that you could have peace and joy in the middle of it, by believing I'm going to deliver the covenant. Walk with me into it, seek my answers, and start talking to me about, okay, now what? And we've talked in this piece of it is that he wants us to live in shalom, peace. Wow, we're receiving the answer. And we talked last time about that we are a new creation, and the new creation is fulfilled when we're walking in the kingdom. So he says, my righteousness covers you. And I have you think about things, process things from the new process, not from your flesh. which is what steals your joy, is why you go back to the flesh. Oh no, stay in the Spirit, you're a new creation. And he gives us this great truth in Ephesians 2, 14 to 18. So go ahead and read that, Ephesians 2, 14 to 18.
For he himself is our peace, who has made us both one and has broken down in his flesh the dividing wall of hostility by abolishing the law of commandments expressed in ordinances, that he might create in himself one new man in place of the two, so making peace, and might reconcile us both to God in one body through the cross, thereby killing the hostility. And he came and preached peace to you who were far off, and peace to those who were near. For through him we both have access in one Spirit to the Father.
Yeah. So, and the beauty of this, he says, who is our peace?
He is.
Christ. See, Christ is our peace, and so stay with him, stay in him. Let him fulfill, because he's in you, bring that unity together. And he said, because in me, and remember, this is a choice, and you kind of expressed it, is, during most of the evening, you were in him. But there was a moment where you went back to the flesh, and you got discouraged. And he said, because you didn't allow me to be your peace, because remember, he said, I've overcome the issue of the flesh. And the battle, which Paul describes as, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak, because your default is to go back to that struggle of the flesh, which is the whole issue of why we live in worry, fear, and anxiety, is we stay there trying to get this resolved ourselves, or just go to resignation with it, where he says, no, stay with me, because I am the peace. I've broken that battle so that you can fully live in the Spirit. Stay with me. And then he says, why? He says, because I've given you through me the access to the Father, who is going to resolve this issue.
Right.
So one of you, instead of like you said, worrying about the problem, come with the problem to the Father and say, because of the peace that God gives me, and that's the indicator, see, is that your discussion with God is always out of that place of shalom, because that's the only place he can really discuss it. He said, now I give you the privilege. Walk right in and discuss with me. Don't sugarcoat it. Tell me how you're doing. I'm struggling, I'm this or that, but you're talking to him because he's your peace, and then let me give you your peace back, and by the way, I'll resolve this, trust me. And I'll guide you, which he kind of did, and I'll do supernatural stuff, which he kind of did, even to get you home at 2:00 in the morning.
Even to get us home. It may not have been the way I would have chosen, but he did.
Yeah.
Yes.
And let me do that, so that the reason that he's the shalom is that he actually has created it by reconciling the issue, and the issue is. If we go to fear, worry, and anxiety, it's because of the focus on my determination or my resignation of this. As I'm trying to solve it. I don't see a resolution, and I think it could get worse. And this is going to be bad, and I don't like this. He says, "Yeah, I know. Why don't you come with me and let me resolve it?" And I've given you the privilege of that. And then he tells us, by the way, one of the beautiful ways of confirming his answer as we live here is Ephesians 4, 1-6. So go ahead and read that, Ephesians 4, 1-6.
I, therefore, a prisoner for the Lord, urge you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling to which you have been called, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love, eager to maintain the unity of the Spirit and the bond of peace. There is one body and one Spirit, just as you are called to the one hope that belongs to your call, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all.
Yeah. So he says that, in gentleness, humility, kindness, stay in shalom. And then he says, in the Greek here, it says, work really, really, really hard to get into the unity of the Spirit. And unity is now, he's implying this. Have another person with you. Ideally, your first person would be, if you're married, your spouse, who's also have a heart to go and hear from God. Could be your inner circle, could be a small group, could be a friend if you're single. But he said, get them. And we talked about that as sacred assembly. And bring somebody else into the process so that you're not going through this anxiety and fear alone. And I'd like to reiterate that the heaviness, that as it gets heavier and heavier and heavier, which is going to happen in the world, one of the best things you can do is bring another person into the process with you.
Just sharing that load.
Share the load. And by the way, your question, what you want this other person to do, and again, that's why we urge you, if you have specific things, you can send them into us, and we would assist that with you. But be willing to bring somebody else in and ask them, would you walk with me to receive God's answer for my problem? Share the problem. Now let's go talk about it with God, and would you help me? Because the unity of the Spirit is understanding His will, which is His answer to this. And you bring somebody else in to process through until you receive it and understand it, and then let God fulfill it. And because you agree, okay, I now know what God is doing to resolve this issue step by step by step. And He gives us the reason why, by the way. You can go to unity with the Spirit with another person is because the Spirit is what? One.
One, yeah, one Lord, one faith, one baptism. The same Holy Spirit is in you that is in me. Is in
your spouse, so that, or in your friend, that have a heart to go. Now remember, we have to be in Shalom. We have to both be in the throne room talking to God, access through the Shalom. Okay, I'm willing to come to you for the answer, and let's go seek it together. And the Spirit says, I'll get it to you 100% of the time, all the time, because I have an answer. Well, go to God together and pursue, what is your answer for that? So that I think we shared that Linda had that when she shared actually last week, that she had that list of 18 things.
Yes.
Okay, write them down. Let's go together. What does God have to say about these? And it wasn't, and this is important, it wasn't generic. Okay, we got these 18 things. Here we go, God. We're going to hand them over to you. Let us know when you resolve them.
Let us know when you're done.
Yeah. And we're going to, quote, trust you. Isn't that faith? Mm-hmm. And God said, interesting or not, that's not faith. It's not trust. Each one of them have to be processed with me because I have an individual answer for each one of those. You got to hear what I have to say. And so we together, Linda and I together, what are we hearing? What do we understand? What is this? A few of them, by the way, were these are strictly roadblocks from the enemy, and you're lazy. You're not casting them off. So you stand and cast them off and ask him to depart.
And once you did, those were resolved quickly.
Those got resolved quickly. It was really interesting because we heard, well, this is what it is. And by the way, this is what and you have to participate in the process of releasing that. Submit to me, let me rebuke it, and it'll be done. And it was. Other ones are more complex, and they're still in process of. Here's the step to take, and and you see what I'm up to? Yes. I'm going to, and see, we know that he's going to resolve it because we can see it.
Right.
And now, interesting enough, by the way, I was just talking to Linda this last week. Those were resolved, and we talked about, well, what happened after that? Well, there's a few more.
The list grew again, and then you bring it right back to
okay, all right. Well, then let's go to unity together and seek His will, because He will answer. So we can stay in Shalom, knowing that He's doing it and sharing that with another person, as we're seeing the steps and the instruction and the promise be fulfilled. Which becomes very specific, and that's what he's trying to say is, I will give you that answer, very specifically.
I love even in this passage how he also speaks to how we walk in the middle of that.
Yes.
So you're talking about walking with someone in that unity and seeking God and watching him do it. But it also does talk, and I highlight this because of the world we live in today, because I think this is a missing element a lot of times. Even if we do trust him to resolve, I think we don't often walk in a manner worthy of our calling. When you look at that, when we hit conflict, we see tempers flare and people being short with each other, and and just all kinds of different things, and divisiveness going on. We don't see humility, gentleness, patience, bearing with one another in love. And so just the fact that he highlights that we're going to need this in the midst of while he's resolving it, and by the way, he's going to do that in and through us if we allow him to. I think that's important. And I even one thing I will say we did well yesterday in the midst of it was that God prompted us, just stay calm and kind. They have so many other issues they're dealing with, and just continue to be kind through it all. And we were told at the end of it, that the flight manager, he looked at us, he's like, you are truly the nicest Mosaic pack, because we are, they're Mosaic, they're frequent because we go on their airline so much. You're the nicest Mosaic passengers I think I've ever dealt with. And so he wanted to resolve it, though, because we were handling it with humility and kindness, and as God was telling us to.
That's neat. That's really neat.
So, yeah.
And by the way, this is really cool in the Greek. When you say worthy of your calling, we interpret the word calling to our joining God in a big work. And interesting enough, it doesn't mean that at all. Worthy of his calling, of our calling, is the word there is worthy of receiving the feast that God has for you. It's coming to the feast. It's coming to the feast that I'm delivering to you. And the worthiness, this is really cool. Well, how do I become worthy? Just come to the feast.
Just come to the feast.
That's it. You're already worthy because of me, and that's what we talked about. The new man is, see, my righteousness, Christ says, I'm giving it to you. Your worthiness has nothing interesting enough to do with you. It has to do with where are you.
Right.
Well, I'm coming to you. Okay.
And if you're with me.
You're worthy, and by the way, worthy of the calling. Now worthy that you understand the feast and the deliverance and the answer and the resolution is coming from me. And if you're worthy, you'll be humble, and you'll be gentle, and you'll be kind. And why? Well, because you're going to resolve it. By the way, and this is important too, it doesn't diminish the issue of anger. Be angry and do not what?
Do not sin. Right.
So he's not saying you shouldn't be angry.
Right.
Even when they shut the door on you. Well, that produces anger. It's like, wait a second. That's not right. I mean, those guys shipping me that stuff again.
Right.
That elicits a response of anger, like, oh, man.
Yet the anger doesn't justify reflecting that onto people around us.
That's right. It's
ever.
He says, learn to let me resolve that anger you have a right to be, because he says that's actually good. Anger drives you to look at things. Wait a minute, this isn't right. But the question is, and this is, by the way, in Ephesians 4, 25 to 32, in verse 32, it says, hey, by the way, for all this to happen and not take to sin, you got to go to forgiveness on the same basis you've been forgiven. Get back to, can I talk now with that person?
Right.
And we'll actually get into this in the next tomorrow. Excuse me, not tomorrow, but next Monday. We're going to talk about relationship issues. Let that be able, with forgiveness. Forgiveness is not reconciliation. It's I release them on the basis that I've been released, which is God's nature. So now I can process things with integrity, with honesty, with truth, with honor and respect. And with that, I'll resolve the issue. And you don't need to get worked up about it. It's okay that you're angry, and even it can be strong. I mean, it can be a real, like, oh my heavens, this is absolutely wrong. Yep. Let me resolve it. So that when you talk about humility and honor and respect, it's processing through the natural emotion of being upset, which is okay. See, it's not a negative thing. It's not a bad thing.
Right.
It's part of who we are. And by the way, part of what God is. So he talks even in Hebrews 3. He offered the Jewish nation after they crossed the Red Sea, I'm going to take you to the Promised Land. Their response was what?
Well, a lot of them kind of wanted to stay.
Yeah, I'm not going. We're not going. We're not willing to go. He said, okay, then you aren't going to go. And it says in in Hebrews 3, 15 and 19, he was angry for 40 years. Because, and from his perspective, it's like, so I'm
so much more for
so
them.
I'm offering you the grand life that I will deliver, that I promised you. I just showed you I can do it. I just got you through the Red Sea, and by the way, went through on dry ground. So that was a miracle all by itself. And you're telling me you're not willing to go?
Right.
And he said he was angry. His emotion was angry for 40 years. Now, it didn't stop him from, I'm going to provide you food. I'm going to protect you at night, protect you during the day. Your shoes aren't going to wear out. Your clothes aren't going to wear out. But you're not going to experience any of the best for me. And his heart was anger. So it's not it's part of the nature of who God is, that anger is there, dealing with injustice and unrighteousness. That's okay. But he said, let me take you to, if you're going to unity of the Spirit, you'll be respectful. You'll be gentle, you'll be kind, and you'll have resolved that piece of it.
Those things don't have to be opposite of each other.
That's right.
Yeah.
You will have resolved that piece of it, so your energy level isn't the one carrying out the resolution, because if you're doing that, by definition, see, you're in the flesh.
Right.
And so that it rose up. Yep. Let me learn to process that so that I can get to God's will, which just comes through unity of the party to do that. And then go to James 3, 13 to 18, because it tells us the wisdom, the insight that's going to come is you'll see the difference. So express that. James 3, 13 to 18.
Who is wise and understanding among you? By his good conduct, let him show his works in the meekness of wisdom. But if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast and be false to the truth. This is not the wisdom that comes down from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, demonic. For where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there will be disorder and every vile practice. But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, open to reason, full of mercy and good fruits, impartial and sincere. And a harvest of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace.
Yeah. Kind of what you're describing is that God's wisdom, he said, by definition, this is really cool, is peace.
Yeah.
You'll experience peace while I'm delivering my wisdom, which is the answer to your question. And if you sow that, you will create the shalom that I'm gonna deliver to you, and so live there and recognize the difference between. Basically, he says, if you're following the world's wisdom, which by the way would be to I gotta fix this, I gotta fix this, I gotta fix this, or stay in anger, or stay in hostility. Right. He said that's actually of the enemy. So which wisdom do you want? You want
his wisdom. We want the peace wisdom.
Yeah. Do you want to stay in the struggle, or do you want to stay in letting me resolve this? And by the way, my resolution will become peaceful along the way. And he said where the enemy is operating in the world is, he said there's you read the word disorder. The word there is confusion. We
see that, don't we?
Yeah, it won't be clear to you. By the way, this is where, and we talked a little bit about this when you bring somebody alongside of you, is you don't want their opinion.
Right.
Because you can ask well-meaning Christians their opinions, you're going to get actually more confusion. Why? Because you're getting the worldly wisdom, fleshly wisdom. Right. What you want is somebody to say, let me go with you to seek God's will.
To seek God, yes.
And I'll confirm with you, and I even said to people, it'll start to come together, and you'll see. It won't be confusing. It'll be, oh, okay, I see that. Oh, okay, I see that. And when God's in it, the resolution goes down the path of becoming pure and becoming beautiful to do. And I was talking to a couple last night about this, and they're looking at a real critical decision about their place of living. And by the way, they have all kinds of options.
Right.
It could be different state, could be different place, and so they're processing. And Linda and I are, let's see what God would say, and tell us what your heart is. What do you see, think, and feel about this? What's the truth? And they are, and they're processing it. And while they're doing it, an opportunity comes up just popped up, and they have this interesting house that becomes now available to them to pursue. And it's in line with everything that they've been learning so far.
Oh, interesting.
But there's complications to it because it's an older house that would need remodeling. And so we were talking about that. I said, okay, now that it is before you, God brought it to you. And what I said to him is play it out. In other words, don't go backwards. Well, yeah, but are we even supposed to do this? I said, no, God brought it to you.
Right.
Play this specific thing out, and if God is in it, the wisdom from above is pure and peaceable and comes together. If not, it becomes confusing. And it'll be, this isn't working. And I said, that'll be God showing you. By the way, don't worry and say, well, if the answer is no, why doesn't he just say so up front?
Right.
And God says, well, the way I'm working, the way I work is I show you stuff, and I have you walk down paths, and sometimes those paths don't wind up being the answer, but just walk down the path. Don't worry about it.
And trust me with that.
Trust me.
That's timing, that's wisdom, that's other pieces moving, everything.
And then the question came up, which is a beautiful question. This wife said, okay, so it's going to come together. What about the problems that arise on the process? Does any problem that arise mean it's not God's will? And I said, what a fantastic question. I said,
that is a good question.
I said, no. I said two things. One, you're in the world, and there's problems already going to be with anything that you walk through. And particularly, you guys are talking about a house that needs remodeling, and you're going to have some problems. I said, secondly, you got an enemy that's trying to thwart God's will. So when a problem comes up, which it will, and I'm glad you raised this up, what do you do? And kind of what happened to you last night.
Right.
Well, you got another problem. Your ticket isn't in the system.
Right.
See, it's what do you do with that? It's not like, well, I guess we're just stuck here and we blew the whole thing and nothing's going to work. And no, it's, well, Father, what do you got to say about this?
Right. And every one of those, again, is that invitation to intimacy, to walking with him.
Yes.
And learning to hear his voice more and just enjoying being with him in the process of whatever we hit.
Yeah. And so you take the problem and say, okay, what do you have to say about this? And either he's going to roadblock it and say, no, this is me roadblocking it. And this problem is there because I don't want you to fulfill it. Or let me resolve that little problem.
Right.
And then you'll see that. And then the next one, well, what about this? And when I say the path is clear, he says, I'll make the crooked places straight. I'll make this difficult stuff. It actually means I'm going to level out all the problems as I go. And are they leveling out? Are they being broken free? Or is God saying, actually, this is me roadblocking it? Because I don't want you to go this way, but I've just taught you some things. So I said, enjoy the walk. Yes, you properly don't take the problem as, well, it must not be God's will. No. Okay, Father, with this problem, what are you going to do to resolve this? And it will come together.
I love what you're saying right there.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Because I just want to highlight that little piece, and we've said it on here before, but I do think that's sometimes where we stop short. When we hit something, we assume that's a roadblock, God stopping, or we assume anything. We assume that's him saying yes or him saying no, and we don't even ask him what it was that he just said.
Right.
And so that staying in the process of it is such an important thing, not to just jump to conclusions one way or another on it either.
Yes, and he says that the wisdom from the world, the wisdom from the enemy, is confusion. And it's not eliciting peace, shalom, at all, because you're troubled by it, and it would be purposeful that the Spirit would say, do you understand that what you're thinking and going down isn't of me, and I need you to be troubled by this. Right. So wait a second, and then the wisdom from above is pure and peaceable and comes together. So as you're seeking your answers, and it's really a simple question. We'd ask our audience to look at it this way. Right now, you got several things you're dealing with. Are you in confusion about it, or are you starting to get clarity about the next step? If you're in confusion, stop and just say, okay, I'm allowing this confusion to dominate me. I'm going to stop. I'm going to come to you and speak specifically about what's going on at the moment. And Father, what would you say to me to release this so it's not confusing? And by the way, all I need is the next step. What do you have to say about that?
And what you've just described there, Rich and I can both attest to the power of that very step to immediately bring peace.
Yeah.
Not necessarily resolution yet, but you will immediately go to peace when you truly step into that place and surrender it to him and ask him to show us. When we do that, immediately our focus becomes on him and knowing he will resolve it, and peace comes, and then comes instruction. But the peace will come immediately as we surrender, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yes, absolutely. So as we complete this little section right here, it's you remember that he is the peace. Go to him. You can have peace right now while you're getting it resolved. Get somebody to walk with you in unity, and then remember that as you're walking down the path, you'll kind of understand that, is this of God or is this not? And the indicator is, are you confused about this? Are you riled up about this? Are you worried about this? And you're looking for an answer that you think is the right way, and God says, well, that's actually not of me. Mine is pure, mine is peaceable, mine comes together. I do resolve these, even these small things that come up. Let me do it. So we'll continue tomorrow with, we have guests, Joe and Lee Bogar are from Austin, and they'll be able to share some cool stories.
Such a fun couple. You guys will enjoy them so much.
Cool stories. And then Friday is New Year's Eve, and we'll have New Year's Eve, instead of an end times lesson, we'll have a New Year's Eve kind of message of encouragement for everybody. It'll be brief, but we'd encourage you to take the time to listen to it, and then we'll pick up the end times next week, and then we'll pick this up next Monday. Next Monday we're going to get into, this will be really important, I'd urge you to join us, is one of the biggest issues to resolve are relationship issues and conflicts, and how does that work of what I call resolution. And it's really important to understand the difference between resolution and reconciliation, because we think,
that's good.
We think, isn't every relationship supposed to be reconciled, and isn't that God going to do that? And the answer is, interesting enough, no.
Right.
There may be ones that aren't reconciled.
And in fact, some can't be.
But I'll resolve it for you. That's what we're going to talk about, is how do we do that, including our role in that. So we urge you to send your questions in, even if it's very specific. We'll get back to you. We'd love to help you seek God's will together, and we'd like to be available for that. And Kathy, we will enjoy tomorrow with Joe and Lee and our New Year's week. So we're glad you're back. Hope you get some rest today. And
I do need a nap today, for sure.
So we look forward to that. So
excellent. Well, thank you for joining us, everyone. As always, if you enjoyed today, be a friend and tell a friend. We're enjoying this journey. Still, just feel completely blessed that God has invited us into this and to share this with you guys too. So Thanks for joining us.
Yep. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Come and See, your podcast for truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by All for Jesus Living Waters Ministry. Send us your questions and comments, and tune in tomorrow for more answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. Remember, God's will is best and none better. His truth brings peace in this world of chaos.